I came into the hobby looking at 65% keyboards, much like a lot of you. All I wanted was a nice, thick, full sound coming out of a smaller form factor. I'm not very good at games, so I didn't necessarily need 60 or 65s, but I did like the smaller form factor keyboard and smaller footprint on my desk. I just like seeing my wood, alright? And for some reason, it's always been hard to find a good top mount 65 ever since I started in 2019. When I started, I saw that gasket mounts were picking up in popularity. There were top mounts and that was kind of standard. It wasn't all that exciting. The gasket mount was the modern mounting option. It had a new sound that was ideal for a lot of people. Prior to this, we were stuck with tray mount, which kind of sucks because it's super uneven. And there was bottom mount too. There was a bottom mount KBD67 MKII, but that and a few other boards, bottom mount wasn't all that popular. Ironically, I personally wanted the old stuff. At first, I wanted the gasket mount or gummy O-ring or something spicy like that, but over time, I kind of missed the old, kind of deep sound of a top mount. Unfortunately, top mount was only in the TKL keyboards, not the 60 or 65. And when it was in the 60 or 65, you can kind of tell, like it sounds kind of small and tinny. So how did I end up liking top mount? Well, my first keyboard ever was the KBD67 II. I was gonna get the Tofu 65, but a lot of people were like, no. The go-to keyboard is the KBD67 II. The Tofu 65 was considered inferior because it had tray mount, had kind of like a weak weight in the back, and it just didn't sound that great unless you foamed it. So the KBD67 II was an upgrade from the Tofu 65, but even then it wasn't the highest quality 65. A lot of people kind of made fun of it. It was only stock brass plate when I got it, so brass plate, top mount, kind of hollow, kind of pingy. It wasn't the greatest top mount 65, but compared to the Tofu 65, it was a nice solid upgrade. And I was a beginner. I just wanted something hot swap to be able to try different switches and kind of figure out what I like. Mind you, this was late 2019. We did not have all the fancy options that you youngins have today. As any sane person would think, all right, so now I got a keyboard. What's my next step? What can I upgrade? Because we all have this addiction to buying things. I didn't know what was available. At the time, there was the E6.5, and that was a gummy O-ring mount, but it cost me a lot of money. It was like $350, $370 with PCBs. I was like, oh my God, that's so much money. I only spent $180 on the KBD67 II. So I ended up selling it for what I paid for it, because it was too expensive. At this point, we started seeing a plethora of gasket mount 65s. At first, there was a Savage 65, which is kind of an upgrade. It was Burger mount, which is just top mount with O-rings on it. It didn't really sound or feel all that different, but it was more supply into the market. It was really hard to get the KBD67 II in the beginning. But the true gasket mounts, that's where kind of the high end was. The Chimera 65, the Keycaps 165, and the Bauer. Those were kind of the top dogs. The Chimera 65 less so. Back when it released, people were like, oh, just Canon keys. Why would you get that? You get a Keycaps, you get a Bauer from Omnitype. Overall, they all had nice sounds, but I foolishly chased the same sound that was most popular with hardcore enthusiasts, Cherry MX Black on aluminum in a top mount TKL, but smaller. The keyboard that was supposed to solve this for me was the Plume. I was able to get a GB spot and got the unit in hand, but it was just kind of scuffed. The tolerances were too tight and the keycaps were rubbing against the case. They went too far in trying to keep it very tight. The sound was also a bit hollow and the assembly was silly. You had to screw through the plate to screw the weight in, and it was just a big mess and was really frustrating. I ended up selling it. The TGR 910, this was before the ME days, was another top mount 65 with a few variants, and that had a lot of clout, had a lot of cost associated with it secondhand, so I was never able to buy one. It was honestly hollow as well. The clone of this was the House, and it was pretty decent. I just never really gravitated towards the design. It just looked like Squid Game to me, and I was just kind of waiting for someone to sell it for dirt cheap. That seller never materialized, so I was like, I don't really care. We're getting a lot of top right blockers at the time of the House. There was the Iron 165, which sounded better with tactiles. Kind of hollow, kind of meh. I got one of those too, but it still wasn't top mount, right? The TGR 910 ME came out, but that was a hollow mess since it was an all aluminum build. I mean, the Toblerone on the back was stainless steel, but the back of the board was aluminum. And I still think that magnet system is just silly. Throughout this hunt, I always heard about this low-key keyboard, the Typ65 Plus, right here. It has 65% layout, but a macro column and a top right blocker. So it's kind of the best of everything, right? I heard it was good by people who tried it, but it was a bit weird to me with the left column right here. I just wasn't 100% sure, and I was kind of on this hype train. I was like, hey, no one really cares about that. It's not clout worthy. Silly me. Over time, I actually tried the Juby, which was a 60% with a macro column, and I really liked that. That was plateless though, so still not that top mount sound I was looking for. But at that point, I was like, hey, macro column is kind of cool, especially since it being on the left side, it doesn't take up any of your mouse space, right? You still got your mouse space over here. It wasn't until 2024 that I finally got a chance to try one in person, and that's this right here. And this thing is a freaking banger. It has a gasket and top mount option, but the top mount option is what I've been looking for. The red anodization here is pretty solid. Look at that. No real scuffs or marks. It feels good. It's a two-tone thing in the black. My room is very hot, like the last video, just sweaty hands, I'm sorry. And this unit is basically pristine. The aesthetic is a little bit quirky and unique with this column, and that's actually good, because if you don't have a top right blocker or something, you end up getting a very boring keyboard. Like the Kohaku is one of my favorite 65s, still not a top mount, but it looks super boring from the top. Also, this is very straightforward to build. Nothing too complicated, no hidden screw mess, no weird gaps, nothing to really complain about other than the fact that it wasn't hyped up by influencers. It's pretty unassuming from the outside, so you wouldn't think this provides top tier sound. Pretty dang good, right? The top mount sound is exactly what I've been looking for. No hollowness to report, and has a larger than life sound compared to its size. The extra width to the macro column is probably helping here because it's a bigger mass, just like how bigger keyboards like TKOs often sound better. And because it's not overhyped, it's not like 900 retail or like 1500 aftermarket. When I originally built this on Steam, there were actually two on the market at $300 each, which is $200 under retail, which is wild. At $300, like, this is an instant buy. That puts it into the category of just above budget 65 keyboards, or just like a mid-tier or high low-end keyboard. Like, that is so cheap in the world of custom mechanical keyboards. And it has an endgame sound, so don't gotta be modding it like crazy to make it sound pretty good. As of filming this video, however, those who do have it are holding on to it at least for retail. At the retail price of $500, $600, it's still a good buy in my opinion. Not exactly buy now, but I can understand the hesitancy if you already have a full collection of other keyboards. The Typ65 V1 is my favorite top mount 65 for sure. It competes with the high retail GSK and the sought after GAF 910s easily, and they are doing a V2 sometime, but it seems that the designer is looking to do a gasket only option instead of top mount plus gasket, and that's sad. If I were to start over my collection and buy a 65% keyboard today, it would probably be this one. You can get it for retail, maybe kind of massage them to get under retail. It's an endgame quality top mount and it looks unique, looks clean, anodization is good. There's not much to complain about this one, other than the fact that it's a sleeper, no one really knows about it. That's why in my journey, unfortunately my collection's clogged up right now because of other boards. I think that this is the go-to top mount 65 to get. You can't get one of these today, I've been mentioning in other videos. The QK65 V2 is pretty good. It's gonna be something like this where I get my hands on it like super late, but I've been hearing good sound tests out of the top mount of the QK65 V2. So go for that. If you don't like the screen, maybe hop on one of these now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.